You're listening to Dropping Pins, a story-based learning series from the OKS Hunter podcast, hosted by Derek Melkor, and aimed at helping you hone your whitetail hunting skills. You'll hear the aha moments when known and unknown proven whitetail killers started consistently putting mature bucks on the ground.
Hey there, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Dropping Pins, Season 2. Sorry we had a little hiatus there. Summer has been busy. I have been having tons of fun in the sun with the kids and swimming, and we spent some time up at the family cabin. So I put the podcast stuff to the side for a little bit and just enjoyed family time, but we're back. We've got some awesome guests lined up for the next few weeks here, and tonight we have a guest that I have been dying to talk to on the Dropping Pins podcast for a while. This is a guy that I talk to daily about deer stuff for the last pretty solid number of years, and somebody I've really grown to admire in the woods and that I look up to, and pretty much is responsible for that buck right there being on my wall. This gentleman named Beau Below is a producer and does pretty much all the editing work and most of the good filming work on the YouTube channel Ghostbusters, which was in part founded by his dad. Beau comes from a pretty incredible family of diehard whitetail nuts. From his father, his uncles, cousins, these guys live, eat, breathe, sleep deer. And the sleep, I don't even think Beau sleeps. He's just constantly thinking deer. And we can probably get into a few of those stories. But if you have not checked out the Ghost Bucks Hunt channel on YouTube, Beau has produced probably the vast majority of videos on there, especially anything of late. Really, really well done editing, very tasteful, very to the point, just really cool hunts, and some giant bucks on there too, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about tonight. So Beau, welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for joining me. We've been trying to line this up for a while, and it's just been tough. You got young kids, it's tough.
Yeah, dude, it's been rough. Like we've set up the times 3 or 4 times and just haven't made it happen yet. But here we go. Let's do it. I'm excited.
Here we go. And Beau is down there in his famous basement. Man, that's one of my favorite places to drink bush lattes and talk deer. It looks awesome. I love the setup, dude. Yeah,
man. This is the editing spot. This is just where the camera happened to be set up. Hopefully we can talk about a couple deer back there.
Hell yeah, dude. So before we dive into any of our, just jibber jabber and talk about deer stuff, the first question I do ask all the guests so that any of the listeners can kind of get a little bit better idea of where your knowledge base is coming from. Talk a little bit maybe about where you kind of grew up hunting, what kind of terrain, public, private, what kind of you cut your teeth on, and then maybe a little bit about where you're at now, what you're up to now.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah. So starting out, even before I had a weapon in my hand, I was chasing my dad all over the woods, begging him to take me out, whether it was scouting, hunting, shed hunting, whatever it was, it didn't matter. And when we first started, we're up here in north central Wisconsin, some of the very, very similar stuff to what you hunt up here. So you're talking big clear cuts, hardwood ridges, monotonous territory where everything's basically the same. The deer just, it's hard to pinch them down. So, I mean, that's kind of what we grew up on. Cedar swamps, got into a lot of that. But, by the time that I hit 12 years old, we were starting to transition out of more of the public land into permission pieces on private. So still up in north central Wisconsin, just taking it from the big woods back to the big woods mixed with a little bit of ag fields. So, I mean, I know we've talked millions of times about different things, but I was very fortunate growing up. I was able to follow my dad around in the woods. So like where most people were reading books, maybe watching some TV shows, I had a walking deer encyclopedia in bed. So I feel like the stuff that I thought was common knowledge at a very, very young age, when you're talking about finding bedding areas, finding cluster rubs, figuring out what a community scrape is, like those are just things I thought every 12-year-old knew, so then I chased him all over the Midwest. We hunted a lot in Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, mix of private and public. But now the kids, we got a pretty good setup in Illinois. We lease some property. We just bought our first property this year and have some.
Woo-woo!
Yep. So super excited. To this day, all the public or all the private that we hunt, this is the first time that I really get to do what I want with a piece of property, as far as like trying to manipulate deer behavior versus just figuring them out. So super jacked to have that in the arsenal. You've been on the property before, and I spit a lot of my ideas at you, on what I wanted. It's just a matter of making it happen. But, with the young kids, my focus is pretty much on that. And it's my best bang for the buck. So that's pretty much where I put all my focus.
Yeah, dude, that's a great place. And I think that obviously stems down from what you mentioned earlier in that little intro you did, just about being able to follow your dad around and having a walking encyclopedia of deer knowledge. Like, you and I are both people who got to follow in the footsteps of someone who is a pretty established hunter. And your dad and your uncles were on another level in a time when people weren't doing the things that they were doing. Like, they were hardcore, and they stepped it up a level. They kept pushing each other. That little, like, seemed like that brother group that they had. And then us being able to walk in and like learn all that stuff, like you said, from our dads, that just like, this is just what it is from a young age, compared to like the guys who are adult onset hunters, guys or gals who are trying to pick it up. Man, we were truly, truly blessed, because here we're able to focus on just learning how to kill deer when we're 12, not find them, figure out how to set up on them. Our dads had us hooked up pretty well in the beginning just to get us to learn those skills. So I think that's a huge part of it. And obviously you're doing the same with your boys. Like, you're setting up your piece so that they can have that same kind of foundation. And that's just going to create 2 more Below hunting beasts to hit the woods, man.
I hope so. Yeah, we're setting it up pretty good. The boys like shed hunting, and I think we're going to get them out not this year, but maybe the next year for my oldest. So that should be cool.
Yeah, he's done a little bit of shed hunting around your local properties, because he was in a few of your videos this spring. So that was pretty badass.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right into maybe a little recap of this past year, because you had a pretty good year. You killed 2 160s, one with a bow and one with your gun in Illinois, and you whacked a really nice buck in Wisconsin with your bow. So, I mean, you checked all the boxes, man. Let's hear a little bit about last season.
It started out, I put a lot more time last year into scouting. And honestly, it was just a unicorn year. Like, every time that I went out, other than one sit, I saw a shooter. And
wow.
I'm like, I honestly just felt like I was dreaming the entire time. So, like, the third sit that I sat in Wisconsin.
Now, one second, Beau. I'm going to interrupt you. I honestly cannot remember, but also for the viewers, that property that you killed on in Wisconsin this year, was that a new one for you this year?
Yeah.
Or was that one that you've hunted before? Because you were dabbling in a couple new properties this past year. You were trying to learn them, which I loved kind of hearing your thoughts on that, because some of the properties you guys have, you got them set up so nicely that, like, I feel like it's almost intellectually boring for you. But like, listening to you pick apart some of these new properties was really interesting. And I love that part, because that's the part that I love the most. Yeah. So yeah, maybe. I just wanted to clarify, this was a new property. You had not hunted it the year before or any year prior, correct?
Correct. Yep. Correct. So I just gotten permission on this piece, and I had scouted it in the spring, found a bunch of sheds, and basically just got permission through a friend of mine. And so I put a lot of work in and found some very key bedding areas. And the first sit that I went on there, opening day of archery season, I walk in, and I was just going to go and check a camera. And I'm like, you know what? I saw this fresh green rub, and I'm like, I got to see. I guarantee it's heading back towards this bedding area. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go. And at that time, I had just gotten a saddle. So I'm like, sweet, I'm just going to go get right back in off of this food plot. I know where this oak ridge is leading right to this food plot from there. And I didn't have any cameras on this food plot, so I wasn't sure what exactly was coming up to it. So I got in there, and I'm like, it's just not quite close enough. So I bump over this ridge, and I know I told you the story before. But anyways, I get up and I got a little bit too close to the bedding area. And as soon as I got around this little knob, I saw a big buck get up and take off. And I'm like, God dang it. I got too close to him, but I'm like, but I know where his exit route is. I guarantee he's going to go and lay down, and he's going to go out to the bean field instead of coming to my little food plot. So circled around, I set up on him, and literally we're at 2:00 in the afternoon, 80 degrees. And he walked through at like 45 yards, just a little bit too far. And yeah, so like that was it. Yeah, and then I never got a good clean shot at him, and I couldn't get him on camera at the same time, so I just let him walk.
Were you?
And then I think it was.
Sorry, that second setup when you saw that buck that, he obviously made a little maneuver from where you had bumped him off that first spot. Were you up in a tree, up in your saddle when he came through, or were you on the ground, or what?
Nope. I just set my pack on the ground. I was just going to put my sticks on the tree. Yep. And I saw him take off. He was about 60 yards away.
And what kind of bedding, what did that look like as far as, so you had some sort of green food plot early season that you were kind of going off of, and you mentioned Oak Ridge. Was that bedding area that you knew about, that you bumped him out of? Was that like on the up on the ridge? Was it a low area? What was he using at that time? Was he close to the oaks? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was kind of on the same ridge, except it was that ridge ran into a clear cut, so the same topography except the timber changed. So it was popple, so it changed into, so you had like 3 different transitions in there. So it went from oak to popple slashing, and then up onto like these big giant white pines that had a ton of like little scrub oak underbrush in it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it was in right off of that was a south facing knob that there was a bunch of beds on. And so like it was a south, let me think about this. It was like actually an east wind. So it was, I gave him like a little bit of a crosswind to it. So I think he was like looking at the valley to his southwest, and then he covered most of the other ridge to the east.
So was he a little bit further out from that like knob than you thought he was going to be, or was it just more like open that he could see you?
Yeah, he was closer to me. I anticipated him being on the far south end, and he was more on like the northwest side of that point.
Gotcha. Dang. So
he just, I think I you know what, and we'll touch base on this because I got a couple little aha moments, if you will, about this. I was just so, if opening day, I just got too jacked, and I was like, I need to get in the tree. Like, I'm so pumped. I know I'm going to get a look at this thing. And yeah, I went a little bit too fast, and I had a lot of rust on.
Well, in your situation there on a piece of private ground you got permission for, that's not the ideal situation to go in first day, bump the buck. But just as like speaking from like a public land guy who like, man, that would give me like a little bit of confidence of like, hey, I went too far, but like he was where I was hoping he was. You know what I mean? Like, so like in the back of your mind, you're like, shit, I got it figured out a little bit better than I thought for my first year on this property. Yeah. So that's a good omen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, like if you're thinking public land, you're like, heck yeah, like I was right on him. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to crush the rest of these bedding spots that I found. Like I'm going to do the same thing. But now with me, I have to kind of pump the gas or the brake pedal just a little bit because I have to be meticulous on how I do these because I can't bump them off and I'm just going to run right onto the neighbors. Right. So it's like, I want to push in, I want to get close, but I'm still kind of at the mercy of the fence lines.
Oh, for sure.
So it's you definitely don't get the pressure, number one, which is huge, obviously. Right. But you also have to kind of throw the aggressive tactics in the back pocket for a little bit.
Yeah, you're almost putting on the ballet slippers as opposed to like the track spikes, I would say. Like you got to definitely be more careful and more wary of what your presence is doing so that you're not altering what they do and helping the neighbor out a bunch, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. So then, October 17th. I think it was the 17th. It was on a Sunday, I remember, and I'm itching, and I'm like getting up and moving around. You just go if you want. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm out. Another 80-degree day, super windy. And I'm like, you know what? Instead of diving in, I'm just going to sit that food plot. I had put out a couple mock scrapes on it since that original sit. And I'm like, I'm just going to go. I know at that time I did have a cell camera. So I had 3 nice bucks that were coming into the plot. And kind of figured with the high temps, high wind. I got there really, really early and walked in this time, took my time. I did a little hang and hunt, had to clear out some brush of out of this big white pine that I ended up setting up in. And it's funny because on the way in, 2 days prior, the guy that owns the property went down there and he's like, yeah, the plot looks good. I'm surprised there aren't any scrapes yet. And I'm like, wow, that's bizarre. I thought for sure there would. On my way in, I bet you, this is 2 days later now, I bet you there were 15 scrapes on the same road that I have to walk in. So I'm like, okay. So, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So the one problem with this entrance is there's this little 10 acres that had been clear cut probably 15 years ago. And there's a couple little spots where there's definitely some big buck beds. And it sets up perfect for that south wind that I need for those bucks to be on those beds. And I got right to the end and I'm like, gosh, you know what? Maybe I should set up right here. Huge scrape. You could almost smell it yet. Like the dirt was that fresh. And I'm like, he's probably bedded right behind me with the south wind. It's going to blow straight at him. But switching to a west, I need that west. The south isn't good for me. I need a west. So
throughout the afternoon, was that wind calling to shift like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got in at 1 o'clock in hopes that it would start to switch as I was walking in. So it stayed south, and actually at about 2:15, it switched to west. So it was perfect. And but as I was walking in, I heard a big deer get up right out of one of the final beds that I had to kind of get past to get there. And I know, I'm pretty sure the landowner killed that buck a week later. But I was like, that screwed my entire hunt. And so I'm like, well, whatever. I got plenty of daylight. Maybe he's still going to come in. So long story short, I end up getting up into the tree, and around an hour and a half before dark, the buck that I shot stepped out into the food plot, and I shot him at 40 yards. But after that deer ran off and I heard him crash from behind me, exactly where that deer ran, all of a sudden that wind died down to nothing. And all of a sudden you could hear shh, shh, shh. And then he starts raking a tree right next to me. You can hear his antlers just breaking crap. And I'm like, oh no, what did I just do? And like, I had some nice bucks to date. This is one of my smaller bucks, but I was so jacked. Like the tree was shaking so bad that I was just like, I'm shooting that deer, like no matter what. And then I'm like, I could hear this other deer, and it was clearly a much bigger deer. And I could hear him start coming, and I just got a glimpse of him about 35 yards away in some thick stuff, and he was quite a bit bigger than the one that I shot.
Oh, hey, man, but that footage is awesome, and you smoked that deer at 40 yards. You literally crushed him. It was an awesome shot. And I think I remember talking to you right after that. It's been a little while since you shot one with your bow in Wisconsin, hadn't it been? A couple of years?
Yeah, I think it was probably 3 or 4 years, probably, since I shot one with a bow in Wisconsin.
And you're not going to shoot a beautiful 8-pointer? Crush that sucker!
And, I got to the point where I was like, I've let some very nice deer go. Some that I would have been way more than happy. It's just like, well, if they could get one more year. But in Wisconsin, like, nothing gets another year. So I'm like, okay, well, this year I'm just going to shoot the first nice buck. Like, the freezer's empty. And then this guy stepped out, and he was big. I mean, small rack, but I mean, he was over 200. He was like 205 pounds.
That's a big buck.
Yeah, he was big body, just not much for headgear, but super happy with him. And you know, like you said, whenever a deer can go down in 100 to 150 yards, that's pretty cool.
Heck yeah, dude! Congrats on breaking the Wisconsin, you know, the little lull there. I've been there many times before, and it feels good to get an arrow in a big bastard. But man, sometimes it's like, I mean, the buck you shot was no slouch, but like, man, it's fun to shoot deer. it's just fun.
100%.
And you had it all figured out there. You had that, you know, beautiful setup that you did there. So your work paid off. And then it sounds like your work also helped the landowner get a great buck, which is pretty damn cool too.
Yeah. Both of them, there's 2 guys, and so a week later, it's funny, these cell cams, I mean, they're a blessing and a curse, but I get a picture come through, and I'm sitting over at my in-laws, and my father-in-law and I are having a beer, and all of a sudden I look, and I'm like, gosh, that's a nice buck. And I'm like, and I had told them to go sit there. And I looked at the picture, and I zoomed in, and, you know, on those reveals, you have to get a high definition one. So I got the high definition one, and I zoom in, I'm like, there's a hole in it. And so I call him, and I'm like, dude, did you get one? And he goes, yeah, but I think I hit it a little high. And he told me where it was. And I'm like, no, you're 20 feet up, 10 yards away. Like, it's not high. Like, you're good. And he's like, I went and found the arrow. There's not a lot of blood. And I'm like, dude, you're high entry, mid body. It's going to take 30 yards before it starts bleeding. You're going to find blood everywhere. And so sure enough, he calls me. He's like, it only went 60.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah. And then the other one shot his buck. On this one, I didn't have anything to do with it. It's one of their rut funnel stands, pre-rut, that they always do really well on. And he shot one in the morning. So like, we were all tagged out, and we still had some really nice deer running around, and we're all kind of just like, now what?
Oh, well, hey, are you back there this year?
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be a completely different ballgame. Everything that we had figured out, all the sheds that we found this year, all of the scouting is all going to go out the window, because they just logged a big portion of it.
Oh.
So they're still in now, which is, if they should have been done already, but I think they're hoping for September 1. So
that's tough.
But if you remember, I think did I send you a picture of the one on the water? I think I sent you a picture. I found his sheds last year.
Yeah, the 10, and, that big, this year, that heavy 10 point.
That,
oh yeah,
yeah, that big 10. So his pattern really isn't much different than what it was last year, except now he's got another year and another 20 inches.
Ooh.
So
well,
it should be. Yeah, we're excited about it.
Yeah, and I mean, that'll just add a whole new layer of that game that we get to play to figure out how to get after those deer on a new setup. You know the layout of the land now, but man, things sure look different after, you know, a series of logging comes through. Speaking from experience, that area I hunted up north, like 10,000 acres of it is gone. So like, I mean, it changes things up, and the deer will be back in there. You know it, I know it, and that'll be a fun experience to see how that changes everything.
Yeah, no, it's going to be cool. But yeah, then in November, that the Big 9, the story of the Big 9. Derek knows all these deer because I talk to him almost every single day about all of them, and it's a deer that, you know, up until this one, we've had history with deer, but none really like this one. So we've leased that property now for like 8 years. And this one, it was just one as a 2-year-old. When I saw him, he was everywhere. And you could just tell as a 2-year-old, he had stupid mass. And then a 3-year-old, same thing. He was everywhere. 4-year-old, all of a sudden, the first night that I sat for him. And I saw him, but he never made it more than, I never closed the distance more than 80 yards. So that was the only time I saw him all last year. And as a 5-year of a ghost. And we have one stand, we call it the tire side corner, where 2 ridges come running east and west, and then a perpendicular ridge. So there are some pretty pretty decent beds that are going in there, but it's a majority doe bedding on both of those east and west ridge. I think the reason that makes this stand so good is that the bucks can cruise with any wind and not go in the field, and they cruise that ridge just on the inside of the woods, so they don't have to go out into the field. And that just happens to be where our stand is. So
it's that stand. I mean, I remember you telling me about that before I'd ever seen your property, the tire stand, and all these big ones getting shot at the tire stand. And then that first time walking into the tire stand, I was like, well, man, this looks nice, but it's not what I expected. I mean, just coming from
it's wide.
It's wide open. So when you say those two ridges are like your doe ridges, like, man, it's mature hardwoods. Yeah. It is not thick. Like, you would not imagine a buck sneaking through there outside the rut that often. But man, during the rut, year after year, you guys you have so much action in that stand because it just pinches them in that inside corner, those two ridges, and they just cruise that, it seems like, which is not something I would think to hunt right off the bat, because I'm, like, that's just not how my brain works. So it would take a while to get me to think like that, but it's a fantastic spot, obviously.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, when you talk about like early season, mid-season bedding, when you look at any kind of winter, when we're down there in the spring, there's absolutely nothing there for them. Everything's been browsed off. Every green thing is obviously down. But when you're early season, as well as I do, when we go down and scout in a couple weeks, that itchweed is going to be taller than our heads.
The stinging nettle and jewelweed.
It's going to be awful. But even when we're down there in the rut, like all that multiflora rose, all your berry brush, all that stuff is still pretty green. So you can get away with just enough, like, that's blocking you from that doe bedding, where you can just sneak into that stand. It's just enough. Now, if it was in the spring, they would see you coming from forever.
Now, that's one of the things that, I mean, I want to get to the rest of your Big 9 story, because that buck is freaking incredible. And the shot you made on that thing lives in my dreams rent free. I think about that all the time because it was perfect. But oh God, now I'm thinking about the Big 9 shot and I can't think of what I was going to say. I think that setup and how I was saying when I saw it, and like just how it was different than what I had pictured in my head when you had told me about it, I think is a testament to, like, okay, so imagine you've got like two of the best bow hunters you've ever met. Whoever's listening here, just imagine the people who you like, these guys get it done, and they've hunted a property for 8 years. And it's got big deer. Like, they would figure out all these little nooks and crannies, these spots where they don't get caught, these spots where they can slip in and out, like Beau mentioned, that's what this property is. Like, when we go in there and Beau explains where their stands are set up, if they hunt them on the right winds, these guys have it figured out in a way where it's like, I don't want to say bulletproof, nothing's bulletproof, but you guys minimize risk and maximize like what it is, the feature that you're trying to hunt, and when you're trying to hunt it, like no one I've ever met before. And I think that part is like, has been really, really cool to like witness and see how you guys do that. Cause you really do have a system, like you and your dad talking, you guys, like you go into this mode and like, you're analyzing every factor of what time of year, what the feed is like what the wind is doing, what the thermal, it's just like you instantly put it in, you compute this stand and this stand. Those are the only two we can do, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's beautiful to watch, but like for the average guy, like the amount of thought and planning and preparation that's going in is not just happening. Like Beau is a machine who's thinking about this all the time. So like one of the things you got to remember is like, if people who are really good at this and have walls like behind Beau there, like this is something that is not leaving his mind. Like I bet you at work, you're like, oh, that one stand, I should do this, this, and this. Like, I bet you the shit pops into your head constantly.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Like, if you talk to my wife, she'll tell you how awful.
Our wives hate it.
Yeah,
Our wives hate it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you're talking about, like, part of the aha moment, like whenever you say like you can plan for everything and you can do all the scouting that you want, deer are deer. And as the sweatshirt says, deer are going to do deer stuff. Like, you can never be prepared for everything, but you can stack the card in favor for sure. So like we have, I'll post a video here pretty quickly. I'm almost done with it, of my dad's buck from this year. We on the Doorway Ridge. So the way that we kind of go in, and the reason that we put the stand in the location that we are, is because we can get extremely close to some big buck beds that are just off the edge of a ridge, and it's leading from 3 different doe bedding areas. So the one bedding area that we find the majority of the sheds in, and it's feeding into the rest of the property on that whole ridge. So the way that we access it, we can sneak in there without bumping something, potentially if he's waiting on the downwind side of a doe bedding area, and we can get in there nice and quiet, nice and clean. We can get in and out super quick. So, and my dad did exactly that this year and was able to put an arrow in.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see that. Oh man, if you think of anything else along the way, feel free to jump in. But yeah, so you, after having a couple of years of history, and you put together an awesome little video montage of the Big 9 you referenced earlier that you shot out of the tire. You had some awesome footage of him over the years. And then finally you're in that tire stand. It's the rut, correct? And then how did that all entail? What ended up happening? He's been a ghost for the early part of the season a little bit.
Yep. So the deer, I only got a handful of pictures of them in daylight, but most of my cameras aren't where I'm hunting anyway, so I'm really not concerned about the pictures that I have. My big thing was I need to be where the does are. So the tire, it sets up perfect for 2 different main doe bedding areas. So I'm like, I know there was a number of nice deer that I wanted to get a look at, and I knew we'd be in the ball game. So just to set the stage, it was like, when did you shoot yours? Yours was on the 5th, I believe.
Yes, November 5th.
You shot yours on the 5th, and I must have shot mine on the 6th.
Next day.
And yep. So there was, I think we got a total of like 3 or 4 inches in from the 5th to the 6th. Like, it rained solid. So I went out that morning before. So on the 5th, I sat all day in the pouring rain, did not do real well. And so then I hunted the morning. The morning was an absolute washout. It was pouring. And when I say pouring, like, I couldn't even take my camera out of my bag because it was pouring. So I was the only one that got up that morning to go hunt. I get back and my rain gear is soaked through. I'm freezing. And so I pull up the weather, and it was northwest winds, and we see a little break coming. So I'm like, we got to be in the woods as soon as that break hits, because the wind is going to switch from a northwest wind that had been for the last 5 days, northwest wind, and it's going to switch to a south. I'm like, we need to be in the stand as soon as that weather breaks, because it's going to switch to the south. The deer are going to be up on their feet. They're going to be moving all over the place. So the rain stopped. I believe it was around 2:45, and 3:15. I see a doe come through, and she's probably 150 yards away. And immediately I can see like the mass going through, and I'm like, that's him. So I had set up my father-in-law on another buck that I had saw earlier that day, and the doe was heading straight towards him. I'm like, sweet, Tom's gonna get a shot. This is gonna be awesome. So like, I text him, big buck, and I say, just get ready. And he goes, okay. So I'm sitting there 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, finally 5 minutes. I see this doe come back over, and he's right on her. And I'm like, oh God, here we go.
He's coming your way.
The doe initially, when I see it, there's one runway that we cannot. There's a better spot on the property, or right in that area, but it's too far down, especially for an afternoon hunt, because then our wind thermals just start to suck right down into that bottom. I had to stand in there forever. It looks way better. There's way more rubs. There's way more line. It's thicker. You can't do it. You can't. Like, they're on that runway, and I'm like, no, he's gonna head. We're gonna get a shot at him. And as soon as I think that, 90-degree turn and comes straight at me, and I'm like, oh, like, not bad. So I had a decoy out in the hardwoods, because like Derek said before, that spot is very, very open, And what we have done in the past, especially on this property, is when you can't get down into those bottoms because of the wind thermals, we like to bring in a decoy. Now, we have the benefit of having private land. We can leave the decoys out in the woods so that they don't drag against every single stick in there when you're bringing them in. We leave them relatively close to where we're going to set them up, just kind of hide them in like a brush pile or something. So I had the decoy out. The doe runs past the decoy. And as soon as that doe runs past the decoy, I'm like, okay, this is game on. And she runs to about 10 or 15 yards and just stands there. And I can just see him nose to the ground. I got my camera running, and he hates the decoy.
Now,
he sees it.
Just to clarify 1 second for people listening, because I'm well aware you guys use mostly buck decoys, right? Not doe decoys. But just so everybody listening, if they want to give it a try, Beau's using a buck decoy. So when this doe who's hot comes past this buck decoy, that big 9 is probably freaking steaming through his ears.
The majority of bucks, when you have a buck that's on a hot doe, it doesn't matter what it is. It's gonna kick the crap out of whatever that is. But he did not like it one bit. And funny thing about this decoy is, though, I always gave my dad crap. I'm like, this one is never gonna work. It's one of those cheap ones from Fleet Farm. I think you have one too. It's like it's the smaller, got the little wrap. My dad cut the decoy, this probably like 12 inches of it completely out. Yeah, there's so that it was more mobile. So it looks like a 75-pound fawn with antlers. And so I have that thing out. And the 9 is just like, dude, I don't know what's wrong with that guy, but we need to get out of here. So as you'll see, like in the video, I know, like you said, you watched it a bunch. I watched it 800 times, and he stops and gave me a little window through the Y of a tree, and he was like 25-ish yards. And it was one of those times where, like, as you draw back and my pin just, it didn't move. And I'm like, okay, I know I can sneak one through there. So he slightly quartered towards me, and I'm like, I can stick it right in front of the shoulder and it's going to exit out mid-body. And there's just one where the arrow just found its mark and buried it up to the nock, and the buck ran about 80 yards and tipped over. So and then we celebrated quite a bit.
Just hearing you retell it just gives me goosebumps.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so, hey, I don't know if I ever told you fully the rest of this story. So I had texted my father-in-law, and I said, hey, big buck coming towards you, big buck. So now there was 2 other bucks that were a kind of satelliting chase going on. One of them was an 11-point, and the other one was a spike. So my father-in-law is all ready. He's like, okay, Bo, so there's a big one. I'm getting ready. So first one to come through is a spike. So he goes, he thought I was just messing with him. So he texts me and he goes, you effer, like, you got it. Like, good one. And then all of a sudden that 11-point came through, and he goes, oh, that must have been the one that he was talking to. So it ended up coming through, and he got a shot off, but hit it above the spine, and we never recovered it. But it's pretty fun. That's it.
Oh, that's really cool. And
but I think,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think just some key takeaways on this one. It was just being in the woods as soon as that weather broke and the wind shifted. I think that was the big thing, even if it was just for access, because any of those deer that we were planning on being there that were bedded there with that northwest wind, as soon as it switched that south, we're like, they're going to get up and move no matter what. Like, they're not in their safe zone from the last 4 or 5 days. They're going to be somewhere. Might not be to get up and go feed, but they're definitely going to go look for stuff. I think that was the biggest thing.
And if you have another one, great. But I wanted to interrupt that one because that's something that for folks listening, it's you had like kind of 2 beautiful factors come together there, which is obviously the break in the weather and the wind switch. Those 2 things typically can correlate, obviously, with like fronts moving in and out. But even if you don't have rain stopping, anytime there's if you have a 180-degree or damn close to it wind switch, that's like that. It's affording you some interesting opportunities with where deer were set up in the morning to get into their bed versus what wind is there now for you to get in close to them when maybe you didn't have it. So I think that's a really key thing is like wind switches, be in the woods for that when that wind is moving, if you can, or get set up. Obviously when weather breaks, and if those two are happening at the same time, obviously you just illustrated how great that can work out, because sounds like you and Tom both had deer all over you. So
oh yeah, it was awesome.
yeah, and definitely if you're listening to this, go watch that hunt on the Ghostbucks channel. You'll see it right away. The thumbnail is like it's night out. Beau's holding like the most massive deer you'll ever see. He's got a bow and arrow. It's really cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one. You'll love it. But there's that one I was a little long-winded on. There was like a 40-minute video. I just put the rest of the hunts that were on there previously because I think they're cool. I probably should have shortened it up a little bit, but yeah. And then then I'm thinking that the gun buck. It was the first buck that I ever shot on the ground, and it was another 160-inch deer. So it was a little bit different shooting one with a gun though, because I haven't rifle hunted in a very, very long time. And now this year, or maybe 2 years ago in Illinois, straight wall cartridges were allowed. So I had a 350 Legend, never shot a deer with it before, and was able to shoot them at 60, 70 yards and drop them.
And that was after you made an adjustment, because you were in there like the whole day hunting, and you were originally set up in a tree stand, but then you made a decision to get down out of your tree stand at some point. What was that all about?
Yeah. So in the morning, I decided to go and hunt the bedding. I got in there really, really, really early, and I know where this is another one of those properties where I've hunted it for 15 years, right? So I know where the deer stage in the mornings. Most of the times the does, they won't bed down. They'll just stage and they'll feed in two certain areas on here. Now there's like 5-6 buck beds within 200 yards of this one stand. One of which is the one that you shot that beautiful buck right behind you. And then there's the other one where I'm assuming the buck that came to kick the crap out of yours when it died came from.
Yep.
So it's kind of potential buck beds, right? And so as soon as I got in there in the morning, I had a really nice 9-point, I believe, maybe a 10. I think he was a 9-point come through. Now this is a bow setup. So, I mean, he came through at 30 yards, and as soon as he kind of was making his way through, he kept locking down on something to the south, and I see this really, really nice 9-point, probably a 4-year-old buck, and he was following a doe, tending a doe, I should say, and running some other bucks off. So at one point, this buck ended up coming to probably 10 yards away from me, and it was really, really hard not to squeeze off that trigger. But and honestly, the only saving grace is I had a property that I wanted to go shoot a wounded buck. That's the only reason that I didn't shoot him. And then anyways, he ends up chasing a bunch of bucks off, smaller 2-year-old bucks off the rest of the morning, and then they headed to the south. And usually the way that works, we're coming across ag fields to this big, long river bottom. So it's just a huge rut funnel. So in this whole thing, there's multiple different bedding areas. The bucks cruise up and down, up and down, up and down. But now in the mornings, they tend to stay towards that thicker cover and bump to where those does likely are. In the evening, they tend to head out towards where the does are going to be. So more towards the field edge. Now I'm way on the river side, so if anything is going out to the field, they're not going to have a very good shot at it unless they come to where all those deer have been farting around already all morning, which is a possibility, but I wanted to put the odds in my favor where I know there's some untouched stuff, and I know there's potential that one of the big bucks that I've been seeing on camera is down on that side. So I just kind of put all my eggs in the basket. It was nice and windy, so I was able to get down. And I know you and I are a fan of this, but I get a little bit weird with it sometimes where I got down to the base of my tree and I put my boots in my backpack and I just walked about a half a mile in nothing but my socks. And it just makes it so much quieter. And I walked and I was going super, super slow, which is another thing that we talked about earlier, that a lot of times I tend to get into the habit of just going way too fast. I want to get to the stand. I want to get up. I want to get my arrow. I want to get my arrow on. I want to get my camera set up. I want to get everything rocking and rolling. This time I'm like, I have a gun. I have my GoPro on. Like there's no rush. I'm just going to go super, super slow. And I walked within 50 yards of 2 bedded does.
That's impressive.
And got to my set. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just, you're not in a hurry. I didn't feel like there was a time crunch. It was in the middle of the afternoon. Nothing was really moving. And I mean, once I got set up, it was probably 20 minutes and I saw the 9 point from when the first buck that I saw, and he was following it. So he had went through this whole bedding area already. And I'm like, okay, so if he followed this doe through there, odds are something else is going to stand up and go and see what he was doing. And 20 minutes later, the big one that I shot stood up out of his bed, probably I bet you it was probably only 250 yards away from my original stand, except now I'm 200 yards on the opposite side. And he ended up working right into 60 yards, and I was able to shoot him. But it was funny though, because I haven't had a gun in my hand for so long that there were so many times I could have easily shot him at 100 yards, and I never once even thought to pull the trigger. I'm like, he'll get closer. He's gonna follow where that doe did. And finally, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you shooting this thing yet? So then I tried to stop it, and he goes through my clearing, and I'm like, God damn it! Like you can hear it on camera, and then he ended up really just reading the script, and I dropped him right there. So I mean, unbelievable.
So cool. And the fact that you got a camera set up in the spot where you sat down, you decided to like make your evening stand. You got a camera strapped up on some trees. You got the whole thing on film, self-filmed. I don't think anyone's better at self-filming than you are. And another just freaking insane buck. Like, it's such a cool hunt. And the way you orchestrated it and just decided to, hey, I want to better my odds. Why just sit here if I think I have a better shot moving? And I think that's a takeaway and aha that so many people listening to this should start adopting, which is you need to put yourself in the best odds place of killing a buck, no matter what that means. Doesn't mean you have to be in a pre-hung stand that you already have. Doesn't mean you have to be in a stand. If you need to be on the ground, if you need to take your boots out, like do whatever it is. Like, you mentioned it when you were, you said that sometimes you get in that mode of like, you just want to be set up. Like, I just want to be in my tree. And like, that's the way I used to be all the time like that. When I was younger, I was like, I just want to be hunting. Because to me, hunting was when my feet were on the platform on my stand and I had my bow. Like that's when I was hunting. Right. I started becoming way more successful and just having more opportunities when I slowed my approach down so much and just thought of myself as soon as I entered the woods. Even when I'm walking, like I'm hunting right now, like just adopt that mindset, take that with you. And then you are the one who like your crew and you yourself are the one who like really opened up my mind to like you don't have to be in a stand. Like if it makes sense to go after that deer on the ground, go after that deer on the ground. Like a hunter is going to hunt, not like just tree stand hunt. So I think for anybody listening, like that's a huge thing that you've got to open your mind up to. You don't have to be in this little box that you think hunting is. When you're in the woods, you're a killer. Like, figure out how to get it done. Do what Beau did. Yeah.
Maybe I got lucky. It's what it comes to. No. I think, when I was actually just talking to my dad about this, I just saw him this weekend, and we were telling stories and stuff, and I'd mentioned that I was coming on here, and I'm like, you know what? One of my most aha moments is I wasn't even old enough to hunt yet, but my dad and I were going out, and now this is my dad. Hey, there's a huge storm front coming in. We have to go get into the stand. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm like 11. I would always sit on his platform of his stand or whatever. And we're walking in. We park at this Y, and we've walked this trail. We know my dad had hunted this spot. Now it's probably been 30 years. We're going back towards this bedding area. It's a simple transition, but I remember that year there was a community scrape that was in between two bedding areas, right? So these bucks are competing over this scrape before they're heading out, and there's a rub line that goes basically straight to the scrape. And now you're probably only 100 yards apart from the two bedding areas. So it's just an absolute slam dunk. So we're heading there, and the wind is shifting perfect. And my dad's like, this is going to be great. Same thing that we talked about, wind shift, get in there when it was shifting, and super windy day. So we get in there, all of a sudden it starts cracking lightning, thunder, and it's nasty. And my dad's like, you know what? Like, it started to rain. Let's just get out of here. So we get down and we take this old logging road that kind of, if you can imagine, if we went left on this Y, the other part of the Y would be to the right. There's a logging road that meets up with that right side of the Y, and it brings you back to the truck just in a pretty long distance. And so we circle all the way back around. We get damn near right to the truck, and my dad goes, "Whoa, stop. And I'm like, what? And he goes, look at that buck. There is a buck laying probably 75 yards away from the truck, looking directly at it. So like, we have this property figured out, so we thought, right? And this buck literally watched us walk right past, and it was watching exactly where we were going to come right back. So we're thinking, okay, we have this bedding area here. We have this bedding area here. This big giant bull, it's unhuntable. Like, your thermals go everywhere. And it was in the middle of this little slashing right in there. I've walked past that 800 times. And right next to one of those blown down, there was like a blown down pine right next to a cedar. So it was like a nice little triangle. And he was laying right in the middle of it. And my dad ended up getting a shot off at him and stuck a little popple about this big around, and the arrow never made it to it.
Wow.
But I mean, it just set up so many things for me, and like different ways to approach things, like on when to go after a specific deer. So one story I know, it's going to kind of feed into that.
Perfect.
I don't know how much time we have, but
as much as you want, buddy, as much as you want. Let's go.
So I don't know. Let me see if you can see this deer right there. You can't see him very. It's my biggest 8-point, one of Derek's favorite.
Oh my God.
We try to take him off the ball.
Oh my God.
Every single time that we just pass him around a couple times. But
oh yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one, dude. Okay, I'm there with you. Let her rip.
So this one, by far my biggest public land buck for sure. A mid 160 inch 8-point, just insane. An absolute tank of a deer. And so I had just switched from a school in Illinois to one that was further south. And I played baseball. So in between baseball, we would fish all the time in the summer. And then in the fall, obviously, I'd hunt. And we were in there in the summer. And a friend of mine and I were out fishing. And we ran into this good old boy. He was a duck hunter. And we got to talking. And I'm like, hey, do you know any public land spots around here? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, where are you guys from? And I said, I'm from Wisconsin. He's from Michigan. And we're here playing baseball. He goes, oh, you play baseball? Cool. And he goes, well, I guess I can let you in on a little secret. I love baseball. I'm like, okay, I'm all ears. And he goes, we got a duck blind. And he goes, every year I see big deer that are running around. And he goes, there's not real good access to it. But if you take a boat, you can get right back behind that duck blind and you can go in there. And I'm like, okay. Like, I was just, just talking to him a little bit. And I'm like, hey, let's go fish that way. And he's like, well, what do you mean we go fish that way? There's no trails over there. And I'm like, well, let's go wade in the water. So we ended up wading all the way over to this duck blind. We had to swim across like this little inlet to get over there. And he's like, what are you doing? And he goes, there's no fish over there. It's 2 foot of water and like 3 foot of muck. Like
that's not what you were worried about.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm not touching my pole. Like I'm just there. So like we're wading through waist deep crap. Like it's just muck. And I mean, it's 80 some degrees. It's in August. The flies are everywhere. And as soon as I get up past that duck blind, there are rubs everywhere. And I'm like, not small rubs either, like big rubs. So we get out of there or whatever. And I end up getting permission to walk through some private land to get back there. So now I don't have to go through the water to get back there. So I get permission and I go scout immediately, right? So we're in August. I go in there. I got permission like 3 weeks later. I'm scouting, walk past through this really nasty, it's probably 60 to 80 acres of CRP to get down into this little bottom. So immediately when I go in there, I find old sign and new sign on top of it from last year. Still August, no fresh rubs, obviously, but big tracks. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Oh, it's probably now on the private, it's probably about 800 yards, maybe a little bit more than that. And there's standing beans and standing corn. So I'm like, okay, there's just an absolute perfect knob. So if I want to set up this scenario, so as you're walking through this nice top flat of CRP, you walk through that and immediately it turns into this oak ridge that slopes down facing to the west. And there's a flat bottom where there's like a really steep creek that runs right through, kind of like out to one side to another. So it kind of pinches them in certain places. And then as it goes
winding back and forth, like toward the ridge and away from the ridge.
Yeah, it all leads out towards the field. So like that whole creek goes out towards the field and then towards like the lake system. So then right along the lake there's a high spot in all that like really nasty stuff that I waded in, where the deer are going parallel with the lake, and then it meets up with that bottom. So right in the middle of that is basically where, like, if you look at it on a topo map, you're like, okay, that looks good. Like, I don't know if there's going to be any deer sign when I get there. But that looks pretty sweet. So now keep in mind, this is 2010 and I have a flip phone. There's no Onyx. Like, I went to I think it was like the courthouse or something and got a plot map to figure out if it was public or not. And so I'm sitting there like with my laminated plot map and I'm like, yep, I'm pretty sure that's where I am. And so anyways, I go and scout up on the adjacent, now let's see, it would be the east facing ridge. And there's this little knob of just thick, I don't know. I don't remember if it was like popple, but it's stuff like if you were to walk through it, you have to go backwards. Like you couldn't run full speed and make it free. Like, it's disgusting. And right in the middle of it is a bed where, I mean, you can spread your arms out as far and as wide as you want and just crap ripped off everywhere. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty sweet. So, I assumed on this one, now this is, I'm assuming on this bed, he's bedding there with a north wind. So October 17th, I remember, I want to say it was like a Wednesday or something. I had to go to class that day. And I get in there. I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I can beat this deer to bed or not, but I'm going to get up super, super early. I'm going to go in there. It's October 17th. I don't think anybody else has like really been putting the pressure to him, especially this far back. Like, I'm like, maybe more pressure up towards the field a little bit where people have been hunting him. I'm trying to get in there super, super early and see if I can get a look at him. And now I don't know which deer it is, mind you. Like, I'm just assuming it's big just based on the sign. And so I get in there. It's like 3 a.m. and I crest over like the CRP, and there's a little bit of a drainage where I can get in and sneak up to the tree that I have marked. Now, keep in mind though, I'm carrying a big honking tree climb. I walked across the CRP with it held above my head. Time to hit that metal, it's like scratching. And as soon as I crest over that hill, you can just hear brush break everywhere. And I knew he was in that spot, right? Because of how thick it was. And you know when you hear a big, heavy deer that you're like, oh, man, like that was something. So I'm like, God dang it. I ruined my spot. And I'm like, but you know what? I think this is what saved me on not completely blowing that deer out of the area. Instead of hunting, I could hear him stop. And instead of like going down there to go hunt, I just looped back around and I made a little bit of noise once I got up onto the CRP as I was going away. And I don't know if it did anything, but I like purposely made noise on the way out. So I never actually went and even hunted it. Cause I'm like, shoot, like I completely blew him out of there. I'm not going to leave my scent because there's no way he smelled me because it was a north wind. So I'm like, there's no way he smelled me. I'm going to get out of there and I'm going to make noise. Like maybe thought I was a duck hunter. Right. So I'm like, the duck blind is only 250 yards. So I'm like, sweet. I'm just going to get out. Maybe I blew him out of there. Maybe
so
not.
You didn't end up hunting there at all that morning.
No.
Okay.
Nope. I didn't hunt. I hunted.
Sorry, where'd you?
Yeah, I hunted probably like 500 yards away from there then.
Dude, okay. So that just shows like the level of like the dedication and that like your gut instinct, right? So you go in there, you jump a deer in the dark. But your immediate assumption was like you were confident that like this is an area where this big deer wants to live. You are already wondering if you could beat this old buck back to bed. So as soon as you jump the deer, you're assuming it's a mature deer. It sounds big. So you made that guess in the dark without knowing anything, really just kind of going off of like your gut, really, like your intuition. And then you backed out to make it sound like you left, like you weren't deer hunting there. Like to most normal people, that sounds insane. Like, do you know what I mean? Like most people would just be like, oh, I jumped a deer and then like keep walking and set up. Like that's what 90% of people would probably do. So like,
yeah, well now keep in mind, it could have been like 5-pound fawn.
It
like,
wasn't.
I was just so amped up. And
it wasn't.
I was just so amped in that moment that's what I was like, I screwed it up. I better like
that's smart.
Try to throw the curve out of there. Yeah, so the next time that I had hunted him, I had planned on going back for the Wisconsin opener. And so it was late that year. I want to say it was like the 19th or something in Wisconsin, the gun opener was. And once again, no, this was the Wednesday. So November 17th, it was exactly a month later. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I stopped by her before I was going to go up, back up all the way home. And just for the heck of it, I jumped on my laptop and just checked the weather. And because I didn't have the smartphone, so I hop on, I check the weather, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to have a south wind. It's going to be south, south, south. So now keep in mind, up that valley, more towards the egg, where there's a huge bedding pocket on private that sets up perfect for a south wind, right? And it's to my knowledge, I don't think anybody was really hunting in there that much. So I'm like, for a south wind, he's gonna be up there. And I said, and I saw at 10 o'clock the wind was gonna switch to the north. And I'm like, if I can get in there with that north, I'm bulletproof if I can get in the stand. And I'm backed up next to this little drainage. I walk right in there, same spot that I was going to go before I jumped that fawn. And
so now you're assuming he's going to be up in that bedding pod that's closer to the egg, and then when it switches north, you're expecting him to work that bottom back to his north wind bedding knob that you had already scouted. That's the plan, right?
Correct. Yep, because I was assuming he is going to be in that bed or that bedding area. I mean, it's pretty thick in there, and it's big. It wasn't just one bed, but like it's nasty in there. There's definitely big deer. There's big rubs, and once again, a weather front came in with that north wind. So I get in there. The wind had not switched yet, but it started to absolutely pour again. So I'm sitting in there. 10 o'clock, finally around like 11:30, the wind switches, but then it's whipping, like it's coming big time. And then it brought it through this little thunderstorm. But then once the thunderstorm kind of cleared out, I had to crawl down, got back up once the lightning stopped. And I think it was around 12:30 in the afternoon. This beautiful 10-point came through. I mean, he was probably, I want to say he was probably mid 150s ish, like an absolute tank. So like this deer is coming through. I see him at about 50 yards. So I'm getting ready. I'm killing this deer, right? And so he's coming through right on the runway that's going through. It's 22 yards. And I'm like, okay, this is going to happen right now. And at about 40 yards, he stops and he looks back behind him and then takes off running, sprints right back past me. Like I never got a shot off. I was at full draw, never got a shot. And then just out of curiosity, I'm like, and now he's only 40 yards away, but in some thick stuff. But no matter which way he goes, I can still get a shot. So I let down and I look back to where he just came from just to see if like somebody else was in there. And this time I see this tree shaking back and forth, just getting hammered. And I'm like, oh boy. And then as that wind is dying down, I just hear a and this buck that I was going to shoot, like takes off, like straight away from me, never presented a shot. And then all of a sudden I see this 8-point step out and it was one of those, I didn't count. I didn't even think about counting. Just as soon as you saw the frame, you're like, okay, yep, we're going to shoot that one. And, so he ends up working like 2 or 3 more rubs and he's making his way to, maybe not to that particular bed. Maybe he's just going to go and check the downwind side now that it's a north wind. I'm not sure what he was going to do, but I was set up there and he goes and he stops and I'll never forget this one. He was 56 yards. I ranged him 3-4 times. I drew back on him twice and he's just standing there kind of looking around, lip curling, doing a scrape. And I'm like, you know what? I can make that shot. Like I've done this a million times. It's still kind of raining, but the wind is down. Like you can basically dance in your tree and not make a lot of noise. Like it's the perfect time. Like I shouldn't say it's the perfect time to take a 56-yard shot because it's not really a great time ever. But if there was a good one, it was then. And so I drew back 2 or 3 times before I even shot. And on that third time, I said, as soon as my pin settles, I let it rip. And I hit him through it ended up being through the heart. But as he turned to go away, I think, plus with mechanicals, I think the blade might have opened weird and it kicked back a little bit. So like when I gutted him, I had a hole right through the center of the heart. But when I went to go and look for my arrow had guts on it. So I'm like, ooh, like that's not good. So it just had a little bit of weird like smell to it. And I don't know what happened because it was perfect right behind there, but it was like exit was low and back. So something had happened. And I'm not sure what it is, but and then right after that, like your buck that you shot this year, it poured like crazy right afterwards.
That sucks.
And with guts on the arrow, I'm like, I can't go in and look for them. Like I can't bump them onto private, you know, and like I don't have permission on private to even go and recover. Like I have a feeling that the deer is still dead on the public. I'm quite a ways off of the private if I don't push him. And hopefully, like, because there was a lot of blood. Like, there was blood all over the place right away. And I'm like, gosh, if he's not dead in 250 yards, we're going to have problems. So I just backed out. It rained all night. And so I shot him at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I went and looked for him for about 9 hours the next day. And I was actually flipping my phone open to call my dad, and I tripped over him through some like really tall CRP, like 3-4 times, going every single direction because it was the last little piece before private. And I'll never forget it. Like I flipped open my phone, and I literally tripped to the point where like I fell onto the ground over his antlers.
Oh my God, that's crazy, dude.
Yep.
I mean, the deer is an absolute mammoth of a buck, prettiest buck I think I've ever seen. 165-inch 8-pointer or whatever it is. Absolutely huge. All right, I got questions. So I totally,
Yeah.
I get the idea. You know, you think he's on this other bedding area, and it sets up perfect for the wind. You slide in with the changing wind, expecting him to come back to this bedding area that you'd already scouted. You know, big bucks call this home. I'm curious, as far as your setup, where you chose to set up, like there's that, he's in a bottom, right? The bottom's all thick and nasty, and you said there's like a knob. How far did you end up, like the tree you chose to climb and hunt out of that day? How far are you from the actual like bedding knob? Are you like able to shoot to it? How far are you off it? Are you on trails leading in and out of it? Like, what was your thought process there? Like, how close did you want to be, knowing that he wasn't likely in it because of the south wind? Or like, what was your kind of thought process in picking the spot to make your kill there?
No. Yeah. Most of it was based off of the sign, really, like where all of the big tracks were, I needed to be able to shoot to. So as I got down, so if you can picture this, let's use another Y analogy. So if I'm sitting right in the middle of that Y, his buck bed is off to the left part of the Y, right? And where I shot him was pretty much straight in front, and where I thought he was coming from would have been that hard right on the Y. So he's following in the way that this little ridge runs, it's pinching in and out. So it's not like a nice big open river bottom. There's little drainages that pinch in and out this whole way. And this was just one where I figured there's some doe bedding on 2 or 3 knobs. And I was just figuring that with that shift in the wind, he could walk that whole bottom and cover all of those. So that's basically what I was doing, is setting up on what I thought he would see the downwind side of 2 doe bedding ridges, and then on his way to either bed or skirt around the entire thing with that north wind and hook around the rest and go back up into private.
All right, that makes sense, man. That's a hell of a kill, a hell of a story, and even the way you got that deer out was a good story too. But man, that was incredible. Really, really cool hunt.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, so anybody listening, I'll just do a really, really quick recap of it. But so I end up finding the deer, field dress the deer, and the drag out through the woods would have been absolutely horrendous. So I just decided that I was going to drag him through the water. And I get out there, and there's a guy out duck hunting or checking his blind or something. Now, this is 2010, so I don't remember if he was I don't think he was hunting. I think he was like doing some work on his blind. He goes, hey, what are you doing out here? And I'm like, oh, I just shot this buck. I'm dragging it out. And he goes, wait, what? Like, you shot it? It wasn't rain? And I'm like, yeah, you were hunting in that rain? And I'm like, yeah, well, I was, but I just found it this morning. And he goes, well, why don't you throw it in the boat? I'll take it back to the boat launch. So he took it all the way back to the boat launch. We loaded up his boat, and then he drove all the way over to the property with me. And we loaded the deer from his boat into the back of my Nissan Maxima.
Woo! Maxima for the win.
Maxima for the win, baby.
Oh, man. That's epic, dude. That is epic. Oh, man. It's just...
Yep. I think when you look back at that story, the one thing that I continue to think about and I try to relive it a lot of times is whenever you're in a stand location where most of the time, let's face it, it doesn't matter if it's public land, it doesn't matter if it's private land, where these big bucks are hanging out, they're almost impossible to get to. So I think one of the things that I try to do most is on my spots where I try to get in close to those deer, but I know the majority of the time I may bump them out. It's going to be on, hey, I'm going to wait for this wind switch. I'm going to wait for the wind to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to go right after this front, but there's got to be something that switches. There's got to be something to help you get closer to them. So whether that's even taking your time, sometimes using like other noise, like sometimes you hear stories all the time. I've got a friend that used a combine running to set a stand and ended up shooting a 190-inch deer because he couldn't get close to it otherwise. Just going slow and taking your time on it. Like those are all really good things to get close to those deer that are unhuntable.
The unhuntable, that phrase you just used is sometimes, well, more often than not, especially with those big ones. You mentioned that buck that was bedded by your dad's truck when you were like 11, and you came back, and you mentioned it was like a wooded bowl that was like an old clear cut. And I can think that this is probably 10 or 12 years ago. There was a great big buck my mom had found the sheds to. We called him Blondie. He had really light kind of yellow colored antlers, and we got him on camera for a couple of years, and we kept looking for him. My dad kept putting cameras in the same spots that he got him the years prior, and he'd still get them, but they were always at night. And I was like, I got to find where this deer's living. And one day I went to an area that was pretty far away, but just looked interesting on the map, an old cut, kind of mixed in with some hardwood ridges. And I came up this old skidder trail through this bottom, and there were some nice rubs on it from previous seasons. And it led up to the top edge of this bowl. And I got up on the edge of the bowl, and I was like, oh, this bowl's steeper than I thought it was on the map. And I dropped down about 30 yards, and there was a bench that would have been the far east side of that bowl. And on that bench, there was a bunch of big old rubs. And I don't think we have talked about it, but if listeners have not ever heard about it, Dan Infalt has this interesting little theory with helium balloons. And I'm up in the Chequamegon National Forest, pretty far from any house even. And I found 3 balloons on this one bench. And I was like, this is out frickin' rageous. There's 3 balloons. I walked that whole bowl all the way around, and anywhere I checked the wind, that wind was just turbining. Like it was just coming from every direction. And on that lower bench, I was like, man, this is the perfect spot. These old rubs make sense. I hung a camera I didn't really intend to hunt there, but I just wanted to see how potentially bucks were using it. And that was the year we had that big windstorm that leveled a whole bunch of the woods. So I ended up getting back to that camera a month or 2 after this windstorm, and a bear had actually wrecked the camera before the windstorm. He had chewed it up, but I had pictures on it, and the first deer that came up on that camera after I hung it was Blondie, that like 7.5-year-old buck. He was using it. I was where, he was almost unhuntable there if he's using that, because that wind, you could not approach, you could not come over the edge of that bowl without your wind somehow making it in there. And I was like, well, no shit, this deer has lived 7 years, 8 years here. They find those spots, and it's so much easier for them to find them because they're using their nose to find them, where we're trying to do the leg work. But man, that switch, I mean, a lot of your stories talked about that switch and that weather front, or just some sort of extreme condition that's going to give you some ability to get into where you typically can't without them knowing it. And I think that's huge for anybody listening. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's no other way that buck that I killed, there's no other way. Like, let's just say it was a north wind, no front, no rain. As soon as you crest the top of that, those deer are likely out of there. I just think it just, luck played a big part in it. Don't get me wrong, because there wasn't a deer bedded there. But with all the scouting and stuff that I did, it said that he wasn't going to be there. And it just so happened that there wasn't one.
Wow.
And then there ended up being 2.
Yeah. How cool is that to have the snort, wheeze, and blow off this big one you're about to shoot for an even bigger one? That's really cool.
Oh, I would have been way happy with that deer too. So I was already shaking from him in the beginning.
And when you saw the tree, you had to be losing your shit.
Yeah, it was a fun hunt. That was probably one of my more memorable ones.
Man, that's awesome. Well, I know for a fact I got to get you back on to tell some more stories at some point here, but it's 10:45 at night. You and I got kids. We should probably wrap it up here.
We do this.
I do just want to say,
Hang on a second, Derek. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I don't know how I
Yep.
accidentally muted it, but I just wanted to say that I just wanted to thank you for your generosity and your knowledge, because being friends with you over the last however many years has really changed the way I hunt, and you have not only changed the way I hunt, but the way I kind of think about hunting, because being an only child and someone I'm always looking out for what I need to do in the woods. You and your family are some of the most like humble and giving people that I've met, and you guys like afford opportunities to me that I don't deserve and to my friends that we don't deserve. So I just want to say thanks. Like, you guys are awesome people, and we appreciate everything you've done and all the stuff you've taught us, dude. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Likewise, man. I mean, hanging out with people that are equally obsessed with hunting is way payback enough just to go and hang out with some dudes that love to hunt and are obsessed with it and like to do really stupid, dumb stuff in order to get close to deer. So, I mean, it's fun, man. I love having you around and love talking with it. And, yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, we will. So the last takeaway of the show is that exactly what Beau just said. In order to get close sometimes and to do what you need to do, you got to do some really crazy, stupid shit. The shit that your friends make them say like, what the hell are you doing? If you're doing that kind of stuff, you're probably on the right track. No guarantee, but
or at least you have some stories.
You got some good stories. All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us, guys. Go check out all those hunts that Beau talked about, because not only is he doing this shit, he's doing it with a camera. He's self-filming it, producing and editing all the videos. They're awesome. Go check out Ghost Bucks Hunt on YouTube, and leave him some feedback. Let him know what you think. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight and listening. Beau, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, and cannot wait to get down to Illinois in 3 weeks and do some more scouting and trail cam stuff with you, dude.
It's going to be fun, man. And hey, you guys are doing an excellent job at OKS Hunter, bringing back, I think, in my belief, what hunting should truly be about: the camaraderie, the having fun, and believing in what you're doing. So I love what you guys are doing as well, and I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, guys, that'll do it. We'll see you next time for another round of dropping pins. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.